Hello, I'm Craig Constantine. Welcome to Pod Talk, short conversations with podcast creators that are not just about podcasting, because I like to take the scenic route. My guest today is Mandell Conway. Welcome, Mandell. How are you this morning?
Craig, thank you so much. I'm doing fantastic.
Terrific, as I say often, because I mean it. We've been talking. In fact, we almost talked too much before we started. And I think people would probably know you best, like people in the Akimbo universe, probably know you best for your work within the Story Skills Workshop, unless I've screwed
Yes.
up my homework. And there's a lot we could talk about around story and how story goes into podcasting. So let's first, I want to say I found out I thought was a good podcast with you that was done by another person that people would probably know, which is Anne Roche. And I'm going to link that episode because I think people should listen to it. It's not super long. It's got a nice backstory about what the phrase giving is like means for you, because that's where your website is, giving is like.
Yes.
And I think people need to hear all that backstory. I'm sure we're going to talk about that, but like there's a bunch of that unpacked. So I'm going to let Anne have done that. So I want to know, because I only want to know one thing. 37 parts. I want to know. So the story skills workshop was first. And then, as you've told me already, the podcasting thing came second. So what I want to know is, you used story sort of as your springboard to get into your work with 60 seconds. And I'm let the cat out of the bag and say, you're not like an active podcaster at the moment, but you keep talking about it. So I know
Exactly.
it's coming. So tell me about how you started using story when you were creating 60 seconds pieces.
Yeah, definitely. And just a quick fun fact, this microphone that I'm using right now was actually a gift from Anne.
Way to go, Anne.
Yeah,
Anne rocks.
she's one of the biggest people that was pushing me, like, do a podcast. Do you have a microphone? I'm like, no. And then a week later in the mail, there's a microphone with no name. I'm just like, wait, who sent me a microphone? It's Anne. So I'm stuck with that. But no, definitely, yeah, stories.
Thanks a lot.
But no, definitely, the Story Skills Workshop, I joined that. That was the first workshop I did. And I actually was a part of the last 7 because I was a student in Story Skills 5. And then I coach in 6 all the way to 11.
Awesome.
And then when I took the podcasting workshop and we had the great invention of the 60 seconds, I said, okay, I'm going to do this. What am I going to say for 60 seconds? And I thought, if I could just write a little short story for 60 seconds, and I'll just write it out and record it. And since giving is my thing, I like to talk about giving and generosity. I could write the story about giving and generosity. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of doing all 3 in one, working on my thing, working on story, and working on podcasting all at the same time. And it was, I say over and over again, the 60-second thing was the best and the biggest thing. It got so addictive that when I traveled with my microphone and my laptop, and I found, like, I went to visit my dad in Georgia. I got into the closet with my laptop and my mic, and I couldn't believe I was doing, because I'm 6'3", I'm a big guy, and I'm like on the floor, stretched out, like, no, I got to do my 60 seconds today. Don't break the streak.
Which kind of begs the question, what broke the streak? Like, what was the eventual, or are you still doing it even though you're not publishing them?
No, actually, I traveled to Australia, and that broke the streak. The time zone, I actually brought my mic, but it was all screwed up. Just the jet lag, the time zone. And then when I had excursions booked, and once I broke the one day, it was like, all right, 2 days. And then you know how that happened. So it broke.
There's wisdom in, like, yeah, I'm done with that. I haven't learned that lesson. I tend to be like, no, must continue spinning all the plates forever. So I know you and I were talking about, we talked a lot about your podcast, and do you want to talk a little bit about what you're imagining doing with your show? And I mean, you can talk about anything you like, but I'm not asking so much about how you want to do the show or how you want to, like, the nuts and bolty. I mean, like, you've clearly got a passion for making the world a better place by just trying to get more people to think about how giving could fit into their lives. Like, it doesn't have to be give all of your stuff. There's lots of ways that you're thinking about giving.
Exactly.
Yeah, I did some homework. And what I'm thinking is here, like, tell me how you're imagining podcasting being a vehicle. Like, what is different about it that you're not doing now that you see as an opportunity?
Well, first, I so appreciate you saying that, because that's one of my biggest things when I talk about giving. I'm not trying to say, give me all your money
Your
or
money,
give all
yeah,
your
or
stuff.
give them all your money, right?
Exactly. So I love the fact that you did your homework on that, and that you not only did your homework, but you caught it, because it's exactly right. But what I'm trying to do, so one of the things I know about myself is I never wanted to start a podcast on one topic. So,
Mhm.
you have a lot of podcasts is just on business or just on one thing, because my interests, how my interests go, they
Yeah.
change so often. But I did want to have a theme, which obviously would be given in generosity, but I wanted to have different series. And that's how I kind of came up with the idea of a mini pod. And so I want to have like a bunch of mini pods. And so one topic that I'm insanely interested in is couples that have been married for a significant amount of time, and how they've been able to stay together, and how much generosity does that require? How much how much
Ooh,
how
that's
much
insightful. Yes.
yeah, how much give and take is in that. So I want to do a mini pod like that. But then I also want to do a mini pod about friendships. What is a true friend, and what does it take to have a healthy, long lasting
Hmm.
relationship? Um, there's a scripture in the Bible that I always refer to. It says, a friend is one that sticks closer than a brother. And so I want to have that conversation, like how much give and take is in a friendship, and how much does it require generosity. So just having all these conversations, I guess you could say, that I'm not having now, with just looking people in the eye and just uh, pulling wisdom from them, and then sharing it with the world. So they share with me how generosity shows up in their marriage. So they're being generous to me, and then I return it and be generous to those that I feel like can benefit from it.
You actually just said that you're not conversations that you're not having now. Are you are you imagining? Oh, I got so many things I want to ask. We only have so much time. Are you imagining that? Okay, here's what happens to me. Does this happen to you? I look out into my space of the people that I know, and I'm just like, I want to point microphones at everybody that I know. Like, and then I started pointing microphones at people that I didn't know, and it's just like out of hand. So, are you imagining in your head, you've got this constellation of, oh, I got like six people I need to talk to about this topic and six people for this topic? Or so you're thinking of podcasting as a vehicle, and he's nodding along slowly. So I think I'm close. Or are you imagining that when you start to talk about this, people are going to point you to these golden nuggets that are
Yeah.
out there that you don't know about yet? Like, is it an exploratory thing? You're looking for the unknown people or that you don't know, or are you looking to shine light on the people that you do know?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like how much you already know, Craig, because it's like, one, I know a bunch of people that have been married for a long period of time. In fact, I was just in Canada for a week with my friend's parents who've been married 57 years. And I can't tell you how many times I wanted to just sit a microphone on the table and
This
just
is dorky, but hold on. Right.
exactly, and just record them. But also, one of the ideas that I have is that, and this actually happened in Canada as well, is when I speak to a couple, I then say, hey, do you know anybody that's been married for a
Hmm.
long amount of time? And the chances are they do too. And then so then I meet this person, and it kind of just goes on. But one of the things about giving that translate into the podcasting thing is I like to speak to everyday people about everyday giving. So not so much about making a $1 billion donation like Warren Buffett, but
Yeah.
just the little things that you could do every day to have an impact. And it's also the same way I want to do podcasts. And it's really talking to everyday people. I don't need to talk to celebrities, although it'd be great to talk to Obama or Denzel Washington about their long lasting marriages. But there are everyday people that have this wisdom as well. And some of them I know and some of them I don't know, but people that I know. And so I
Hmm.
could have those conversations with them. So you hit it right on the head with just about everything.
It's kind of not what I'm aiming for. I mean, I love it when I go, "Is it this?" And people go, "No, that's not it at all." And then tell me what. So that's cool. I um, I was just thinking the celebrity star aspect of it, and I always ask, "You get an email from me after we're all done." I say, "Who do you want to hear on the show?" Because I'm always doing that, friends of friends thing. And every once in a while, somebody will give me like not a completely unobtainable guess, but they'll be like, Guy Rad, like give me this name. And I'm just like, Yeah, I mean, that person's got like 9,000 episodes out there. I don't know that we need to hear more from that
Mm-hmm.
person. And I really, what you're saying about that 2 degrees of separation, that really resonates with me because I really like, like you're a podcaster too, there's a ton of work goes on behind the scenes. And I really do that work because I love when people hear someone that they don't know. So a lot of people know you, but people hear someone they don't know and then they go, I have no clue who that person was, but that was an awesome conversation. Sometimes I want to just cut myself out of the show entirely and it'd just be, 20 minutes of Mandell talking. So I really hear what you're saying about, yeah, those like, do you know anybody? And they're like, oh yeah, you need to talk to Tom and Mary, or, see these two people over here, those people over there. Cool. What else is top of mind? Otherwise I'll just talk forever.
Top of mind. Well, earlier in our pre-conversation, it's funny you mentioned something. We were talking about some of the bad things that happened with Zencaster, and I just had the idea of and you mentioned the story with the gentleman that was in India, like the worst thing that happened to you. I was like, that's actually like a little mini pod series, asking people, hey, what's the worst thing that's happened to you in your life, and what did you learn from it? Like, what was the gift and the worst thing that happened to you ever in your life?
Yeah.
And
Me?
just
Oh,
sharing it. No, I'm just saying. I mean,
I was
I
like, oh no.
mean,
Everybody listening just went, yeah, Craig, that's
yeah,
the answer.
but yeah,
Keep
no,
going.
you could definitely answer. But it's definitely a question that I think people, if they're comfortable, obviously sharing that can bring a lot of value to people listening because they might be experiencing that in the moment, or might be something they'll have to face later on. So, just you talking about your experience on Zencast, I'm like, wait a minute, there's a little mini pod series right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking smack about, he said, what do you think about Zinc? I'm like, oh, the technology for recording podcasts, I dislike all of it. There's no great solution. But I'm willing to put up with, so Zoom, I think, is the nicest experience for the guests coming to the show because almost
Hmm.
everybody's just like, yeah, Zoom, click, there it works.
Hmm.
Um, and with the other platforms, the one that I use and the other ones, they all are a bigger lift for the guests.
Hmm.
So I'm completely well aware of that. And I try to prepare people as best as I can. But
Hmm.
I would say 1 out of 3, there's something weird happens. It's never the same weird. It's always different. So I, I don't care because my side works, but, and every once in a while I lose a whole opportunity and I'm almost okay with that. But
Yeah.
I'm always thinking like, oh, I feel bad because these people are so generously giving of their time to show up
Hmm.
and be on my shows. And now I'm like, oh, and you have to do a handstand. Oh, and you have to put this thing. Oh, and you have to and it's got to
Hmm.
work in Chrome. And I'm just like, oh, am I asking too much? Um, but on the other side of that, I know that if we get a good recording of, Mandell's voice, the people are going to really appreciate that gift from Mandel. So I'm like, all right, we're doing a little extra work, Mandel. Make this
Exactly.
work.
But it's worth it in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many opportunities to be generous and to make it not be about oneself.
Hmm. I remember
What
years ago, Reed Hoffman, who has the podcast Masters of Scale, he actually said that I think it was during COVID. Like I think they were having problems with the guest, and with doing video and audio and all that. He started making these kits, and obviously Reed Hoffman's a billionaire, so he could do all this stuff. But
mail out the recording? Yep.
yeah, he started like making these kits and mailing it to them and saying, "Okay, this is your setup. This is all you have to do." He made it real simple, and it was a perfect thing. So it's funny that you say that. Have a heavy lift, a soft lift,
Yeah.
and really you want to have, with all of that, like you said, great quality.
Yeah. I think I don't like I didn't well I'm gonna man down the show so I can talk about how awesome I am, but I do think I'm sorry I didn't do it anyway. I think about a lot like when I'm picking guests or like every day I try to do guest outreach where I'm like sending cold emails and stuff and I'm
Hmm.
I'm always trying to imagine, yeah, who would the listeners for whichever show, who would they want to hear?
Hmm.
And then also, who should they hear, even if they don't want to hear? Like, I
Hmm.
don't know, maybe we need to get this guest on here because it's a viewpoint that hasn't been represented, or it's underrepresented, or it's
Hmm.
misrepresented. And I really think of podcasting, what I'm doing, the way I do it, as like it's a huge privilege, but it's trivial really for me to do it. So I feel like I have this responsibility. I shouldn't be doing navel gazing. I'm not saying your 60 seconds would be navel gazing, but I should not be doing any navel gazing 60-second stuff. I should be doing the harder lift as hard as I can make it for me to
Mm,
get that person, that should be seen or should be heard. So I really do think of every one of these episodes as like a gift to the guest, not so much a gift to the listeners, but as a gift to the guest. That's what I
mm,
try to create. So when I heard you talking about, and you really need to listen to Anne and Mandell's episode, um, when I heard you talking about like you're around, maybe we'll tease people with the origin story about Mandell and his mom and the allowance. People need to go listen to that. The first, where Mandell learned the lesson about what giving can be, like what it could be for you and
mhm.
what it means to give what's appropriate. That I was like, oh yeah, rats, I can never stop. Like until it becomes too heavy of a lift for me, until there's a
Mhm.
reason why I can't do this. I know I'm rambling. What's coming to mind for you?
No,
Since you have,
definitely, I agree. Because there's always that question of, am I hiding, or is this just not for me right now, or is it that season is over?
hmm,
So, you kind of dance between those things because you don't want to be hiding. You could do 60 seconds forever. And then it's like, okay, are you hiding? Should you be doing 5 minutes and you're just doing 60 seconds because it's easy for you? Or is that just going to be your thing?
hmm,
You're just going to do 60 seconds. It's an easy lift for you, and it has great value for yourself and for others. So I totally agree. But I also love the fact that you have this podcast, and not only are you thinking about how it is a gift for your guests, but also not only for your audience, but also for the guests themselves. And that's a different kind of angle too. It kind of goes hidden, but having these conversations, look at our conversation already. I've already written down notes of little ideas that you've
yeah, I
sprung
have
to me.
homework from the pre-calls. Like, let's not. I'll talk about that later. I'll send you an email with it. I do a lot of that. I'm like, oh, let me help you with this. Yeah,
Exactly. So it's a gift all the way around.
it's I'm uh, when I pause, people who listen a lot know this. When I pause, it's not because I have nothing to ask. I'm just like, oh, I got 90 things. Here's like a very different way to ask a different
Mhm,
question. Where's a place in your life currently where you feel stymied or stuck? Like you would like to be generous or you would like to give, but there's something either holding you back that's in yourself or something external that's holding you back. Like when we're all in lockdown, it got really hard to be generous because
mhm.
we're all locked in little boxes. So where's a place currently where you feel stuck or withheld or constrained?
Mm. I wouldn't say stuck, but I definitely say not as much as I want to, and that's in my writing. Every day, writing the daily tithe. It could, just like the 60 seconds. I could write every day for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then I'll skip a day, and then
Mm.
it's a week. It's 2 weeks. It's 3 weeks.
Oh,
So
yes.
not being as generous I would like to be in terms of my writing and sharing my stories and my experiences with the world or with my subscriber community. So that's definitely in one way. I'm just really at this point, I'm trying to get down a system where where I can make the lift easier for myself to get it down. And I really want to work on a system in which I could have like a backlog of 5, 10, 15 things that I want
Mm.
to share. So on those days that are really crazy or I'm traveling, because really it happens when I travel, then I could just say, okay, I have this backlog. I could let me publish this just so that it's something that's going out there
Mm.
and I'm not getting into this 2-3 week rut of not releasing things. So that for me is probably the challenge that I'm in right now in terms of being semi stuck or just not having the system down that I want to have.
Mm. Two things. One, what's your website's URL? Because people need to go there and subscribe to the email so they get those things you were just
Yeah.
describing. What's the website?
Yeah. So the website is givingislike.com. So just givingislike.com. And then you'll see on the top right corner the Daily Tithe, which is a email that I send out every day about giving and generosity and and what it means to be generous and
Mm.
to be a giver of all things, as we said earlier, not just of your stuff, but a lot of things that you can give to others as
Mm.
well as yourself.
And I said two things. And the second thing is, um, first of all, oh my, yes, totally. I'm going to say I'm doing a lot of writing these recent years, and that's really the thing that is like that's what I'm really doing. People think wait, I thought you were a podcaster. I'm like, yes, but it's really for me about writing. Um, and I want to say, oh, I totally feel you about the whole like, oh, my goal was to just write for 5 minutes and I haven't done it for 3 days. And then I have a trip coming up on Thursday. It's all real, like for real. So I want to push back a little bit. So you had just said, because I thought the same thing and then I pushed back on myself. You had just said, I want to get a backlog so that I know I have one and they can. And I went, oh, yeah, but you know what? I see that there's a problem with that. The hard part for me is to actually sit down. Like, the problem is me. I have all this chaos. I could write in an airport terminal. I've done it, like, because I just, it's right. It's 5 minutes. And for me, if I have a great day and I do a bunch of them, I'm kind of like cheating, because the days where it would be really hard to write, those are the days when I really should write, even if it's crappy work.
Yeah.
So that was a thing that I keep like forcing myself to do the suck on the day. Like, no, the sucky day when I feel like I can't write because I'm supposed to be on a bus. That's when I should write but I don't know if that's just, I'm wondering what your opinion is about that. Cause that could be just me is that masochistic? It could just be me being a masochist about, oh, I want to make it as hard as I can. But that's my thinking about, oh, I don't like to make a backlog, like a pile of queued work for myself, because I feel like I'm cheating.
Yeah, no, I love that because I never thought about that. So that'll definitely be something for me to test out and see. Will that then open the door for me to hide, or will it then force me to still show up every day? But in the days where it's almost impossible, let's say I'm going to Australia again, I'm going to be on a plane for 20 hours. I know that I'll have a backlog where I could just release something. But I don't, as you said, I don't want me having a backlog to mean, oh yeah, you could take some days off.
Yeah.
But so that'll be interesting. And it's funny, I actually thought about the backlog thing after hearing an interview with Seth, a podcast with Seth, where because he's blogged every day for 14 years or 17 or over 20 years. And someone said, what happens if you're sick or something? And he says, oh, I have a backlog for days where I'm absolutely sick or something like that. And so I said, oh, that might be a good idea, not for sick, but just when my days are getting just so crazy. Yeah. It's something to test and see. Or maybe that will lead to another thing that will work for me. So I definitely want to test it out. But now I always have you in the back of my mind saying, this doesn't mean take the day off. It just means you have a backlog, but go sit down and write. And the days that you write that you don't want to write, that could be a part of your backlog too, or you could publish that the next day. So
I want to add a little. I appreciate your saying that you took that so well. I appreciate that. I've been thinking about, I can't remember who said it was. I think Seth shared, but this actually comes from somebody else, saying like, show me your discard pile. And it was a cartoonist who was like, here's my awesome cartoons that you all know and love. And then it was like, here's the stack of 900 cartoons that magazine stuff said no to. Not ones that he decided wasn't good enough, but ones that he did submitted and they went no. Yeah. So there's that whole filtering if we're only seeing the good ones. So I've been trying to imagine, instead of my goal is to write every day so that I can publish something every day or whatever the schedule is. I would like my goal to be that I simply write every day. So what would happen, Craig, if you wrote more than one thing, or if I'm trying to publish 3 a week, write 4, just keep writing that there's a pile that develops. And then, okay, I also need to publish something today. It doesn't have to be what I wrote today. And I was trying recently to decouple the writing is the thing that I want to do every day. It's not so much that the publishing has to happen every day. And like, if I'm doing my writing, well, yeah, something comes out every day. So I kind of feel like I can sort of play that Seth thing a little bit. Not, I saved this good one, but just like, there's generally a little basket here of like what's going out today. So that's like a nuance or a variation on that.
No, I'm so with you on that, because that's another thing that I want to get down, is that for me, and I don't know why totally, but a lot of things I write, they take so much, it like drains me a little emotionally. So I'll sit down and I'll write something, and when I'm done writing, I'll be like, when I'm done writing, I'll be like, whew, let me get up and go do something else. When really I probably should, and I want to try this. I should continue to write the next thing, and just an hour, 2 hours versus 15 minutes. And then when whatever, whether, like you said, whether it's good or bad, um, whatever it is, I'm building the material up. I'm building the reps. I'm getting better, and then I can go and say, okay, this is the part that I want to keep. I'll share this today. I'll share this tomorrow, or I'll share this next year. But just getting that habit of doing the emotional labor. I think I want to be able to push through that versus just saying, "Oh, it's been 20 minutes and that drained me."
I'm out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm out of here. What would happen if I just sat in it for a little longer? That third or fourth round, what might happen? So that's another thing I kind of want to try. So yeah, I'm totally with you with that.
Man, that's deep, man. And I just realized that might sound like I'm abbreviating your first time. I was just like, no, man, that's deep. It's like, because what my brain leapt to was that's also a Zen thing. Like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. I'm exhausted. Just sit. Like this, Zen thing is to just sit with that and like, well, what am I feeling? And then a lot of times I wind up, I don't want to write. Okay, and then just sit here and feel what it feels like to not want to write, and then. And off I go. So it's there's a lot of wisdom in what you're describing there about sit with it. Random. It's going to sound very random to you and to people listening. It's not random to me because I've been thinking about it for months. For all of these shows, I pick one word to be the title for the show, and I do it after the fact. And I thought, you know what? I should probably end the show by asking people. So what should we use the word? What should the word be? That's the title. Whoa. Sentences, words into pudding. What do you think we should use as a word for the title for this show? Could be storytelling. It could be writing. I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, you're right. It could be obviously podcasting. It could be storytelling. It could be 60 seconds, which I think might be the winner. Because
I think giving is the winner, but we'll keep going. 60 seconds.
Okay. It could be giving or generosity. And the reason I said 60 seconds, because I think it's like it leaves the listener like 60 seconds what, and then it's like 60 seconds of giving, of generosity, of everything that we talked about. But yeah, obviously, giving could always I'm always down for that, or generosity.
60 seconds works for me. I think you get to choose. I think we'll make a new thing here where I'll ask at the end of every episode. There you go, a new thing. I'll make a new thing where I ask at the end, and you tell me what you think the title should be. One less thing I have to decide on. No pressure.
But yeah, definitely I think it's between those three. 60 seconds, giving, or generosity.
3 comes up a lot. Let's go with 60 seconds. I like that. 60 seconds with Mandell Conway. Mandell, it was a pleasure to get a chance to capture one of our conversations. And I hope our paths cross soon. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Oh, man, been my pleasure, Craig. And thank you for not only this episode or this conversation, but also the help you were in the podcasting workshop as a remarkable and assistant coach kind of gig. And you were just the knowledge that you have because of the years that you've put in is just like, it's almost easy for you, even though I know it's not because you put in the work, but just like we were having a conversation before, you're like, oh yeah, you could put that in your email client. I'm like, oh, you can?
Well, thank you very much for saying so. You're very welcome. It's my distinct pleasure. All right. You get to say goodbye last. So thanks.
Yes. Thanks, Craig. Have a great one.